श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभः निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुर्मङ्गेते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मणते वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितं पुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्बा त्वामनसं ददामि भगवद्गीते भवेद्वेषिणी। नारायणपुरो व्यक्तादण्डमव्यक्तसम्भवम् अण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपा च मेदिनी अवतीर्णश्च कालट्याम् केदारेन्तरतश्चयः चतुष्पीडप्रतिष्ठाता जयदाच्चङ्करो गृह शङ्कारूपेण मच्चित्तं पङ्कीकृतबोध्य किङ्किरीससामाय शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रये। So we were looking at Sankhya Yoga, second chapter in Bhagavad Gita. We looked at first 10 shlokas, and then we were looking at introduction or a overview provided by Sri Shankaracharya in his Bhashya, where it started from the 11th shloka. Right. So before that, there is an overview of that. So what we looked at was all the up to 10th shloka and first chapter where we looked at Arjuna Vishada Yoga, and the second chapter 10 shlokas we looked at Arjuna's listening to that, what Krishna realized that Arjuna's shoka or the grief or despondency, delusion is not due to death itself. It is not purely because people are dying and that's why Arjuna is worried. Okay, it's not just because the death, because he is used to that. He had many battlefields, right? So before, if you look at that, even when as a Guru Dakshina, he went against Drupada, and then as part of Rajasuya sacrifice, before that, he went all over the battlefield, and then many battles he had. Even up to latest to Virata war, he had battles, right? So death is not something he's worried about, of people dying. Even on whether it is on the Kaurava side or maybe some on his side as well, soldiers and our people die. So he probably is not worried about, but his concern is about of his own people, death of his own people, his grandparent Bhishma, his Guru Drona, his Guru Kripacharya, his friend Ashwatthama, his brothers Duryodhana and others, or maybe on his side as well, his sons, his brothers, everybody is there, right? His father-in-laws and all those people are there. It is his own people. That's what he is concerned about, and that's what makes him this delusion and this shoka, moha, and that's what is resulting, right? So again, the important thing here is, again, it's same, right? So the shoka moha, what Arjuna is experiencing, again, if it happens somewhere else, so we hear again, whether it is happiness or sorrow, we hear from someone else happening, oh, is it? Okay. But if it is in our house, if it is happiness, we enjoy. If it is grief and something, then that hurts us, right? So it is same thing here, Arjuna as well. So the shoka moha, that is there. Again, we looked at that Shankaracharya's introduction or overview where he clearly said that shoka and moha, the grief and this moha is the cause of the samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Shoka is manasa santapa. It is the mental, mind-related grief, right? And moha is absence of viveka, without jnana, without that knowledge, that different uh, ability to differentiate what is good and bad. And Krishna realizes that the only way to get Arjuna out of this is through Atma Jnana, narration of narrating him what is right and what is not. So narrating that, and that's why we started looking at the what Krishna says in the 11th shloka, where Krishna says 11th shloka, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Krishna said, so Bhagavan said, Ashochanan Vashochasvam Prajnavadamscha Bhashase Gatasu Nagatamsumscha Nanu Shoshanti Pandita. So you grieve for who are not to be grieved for, and you speak of the words of the wisdom. And the learned do not grieve for the departed, those and for those who are not departed. Learned will never grieve for those things. So, what does this mean? So, Bhishma, Drona, and others are not to be grieved for. That's what Bhagavan is saying, because they are of noble character and are eternal in their real nature. So, again, real nature is whether you regard their present personalities or their real nature, they are always eternal. Personally, they are the men of good conduct. In their real nature, that is their true identity, they are identical with Paramatma. That's why they are eternal. So that's what Krishna is saying. So Bhishma, Drona are not to be grieved for. With regard to then, Ashochan, who are not to be grieved for, Twam, you, Anvashocha, grieve. You grieve for them, thinking they die because of me. Without them, what shall I do with this kingdom and enjoyment and things like that? And because of that, you grieve. You're thinking that they die because of me. Without them, what do I do? That attachment, right? And Bhashya say, you speak prajnavad. So you speak words of wisdom, the words used by men of wisdom, of intelligence, the people who are having intelligence, right? What Krishna is saying is, your words are like a foolish man, but you are presenting it like a person of intelligence, man of intelligence. The idea is like one mad, you show in yourself this foolishness and learning, which are contradictory. Okay, so on one hand, you are saying that these are all the right things one should do or should not do, and this what happens with the war and all those kind of things. But also on the other hand, you are acting like a foolish person. Okay, because they learned the Pandita, the knower of Atma. So Pandita is not every person is classed as a Pandita. Okay, these days, for example, everybody is given a title as Pandita, right? So Pandita here is the one who has knowledge of Atma. Okay, Panda means wisdom about Atma. Okay, Panda, Atma Vishaya Buddhi, Yesham Tehi Pandita. So the one Panda means the one having means the wisdom about Atma, wisdom, jnana about uh, self. Okay, and those indeed who have this are Panditas. Okay, Panda Atma Vishaya Buddhi, Yesham Tehi Pandita. Not everybody becomes Pandita. The only who has the Atma Vishaya, they are the Pandita. And those Panditas, because those learned on the authority of the Upanishad text, again, Shankaracharya goes, so Upanishad text to say that Pandita is the one who has Atma Vishaya, who knows this about wisdom about self. He quotes Brihadaranyaka Upanishad saying Pandityam Nirvidya. So the knower of Brahman, having known all about the scholarship. So again, so he says saying here he is quoting the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So the person who knows the Brahman, having known all about that scholarship, should try to live upon the strength which comes of that knowledge, of that jnana, having known all about this strength as well as the scholarship, he becomes meditative. And having known all about both meditativeness and its opposite, he becomes the knower of the Brahman. So that's again to validate that Pandita is somebody knower of the Brahman, and such a Pandita, because those Pandita na anushochan. So they do not grieve. Such a Panditas do not grieve. Gata soon. They for the departed, those whose lives have become extinct. Okay, so or they also agata soon. They for those who are not departed, those whose lives has not yet left, they are living. Okay, so for them also they do not grieve. Okay, so the that's what the Panditas do. So the one thing to observe here is again the idea is you are sorrowing for those who are eternal in real sense and who are not to be grieved for. Hence, you are a fool. Now the question might come, Arjuna might ask, why they are not to be grieved for? And the answer is because they are eternal. And how they are eternal? Bhagavan answers that in the next shloka. So there are a couple of things to observe here. Again, this attachment, whatever Arjuna is having, is with Deha, right? So the body. And again, Deha and Sharira, there are two terms normally used. So Deha is the one that undergoes changes. So it undergoes changes, and Sharira is Shru Himsayam Dadatu Shri Shiryate Rogadina Idi Shariram. So that one becomes weak and then gets destroyed. Okay, so that undergoes destruction at the end. So if you look at the body, a common word, let's say in English, see the earlier part of the life where it undergoes changes from young age to middle age and like that undergoes changes. That's could be called Deha. Okay, and then Sharira is the one that becomes weak and gets restored after a certain age. The hair starts falling, tooth drop, and then various other things, right? So legs becomes weak, back becomes paining, all these things, and then finally one day dies, right? So this deha or the sharira, it undergoes changes. So first it exists in the womb, asti, it exists in the womb form, and then it takes birth, jayate. So Jayate is when something that already exists becomes visible. Okay. And then it grows, vardate. And then viparina, vipari, viparinamate. So it slowly changes. So and then it abakshiyate, it becomes weak, and then it nashyate, it gets destroyed. So deha goes through these 6 stages of changes. But you are because you are crying for that body. Okay, you're not crying for the real Atma that resides in that body. Okay, Panditas sees this life as a dream. They know that this body is not permanent, but the Chaitanya, the Atma Vastu that's inside is permanent. That's the one is the permanent. And because of your crying, that is Arjuna's crying, looking at somebody's body, Bhishma, Drona, or whoever it is, it doesn't mean that the body will remain forever. Okay, so Krishna is trying to tell him that the Panditas, they do not look body as a permanent thing. They look at the Atma as the permanent thing. They look at that Atma as same as Brahman. So another thing to note here is again, the word used is anushochasi, right? So you are crying because others cry. Okay, Anu says that it's looking at others and following that. So you're crying because of others' cry. So if somebody is looking at, if everyone cries, and so also you also crying. Okay, so it is ajnani. It is the ajnani, the one without jnana is the one who cries. You are not an ajnani. You should not cry. That's what Krishna is saying. And again, you are crying for those who are going to die, not yet died. Okay, so definitely, but again, this is cute here. The important thing here is the language is you are crying for those who are going to die, but you know that they are going to die in this war. Okay, that's why it's considered as already dead. Okay, so for example, if you take some real life examples, if there is a wedding engagement that has happened, okay, uh, just the engagement happened, wedding is yet to happen. At that time, people tell the uh, bride's father or anything, oh, your your responsibilities are gone now, right? Your parenting responsibility is finished. Even though wedding has not happened, just the engagement as of wedding is confirmed. There's a similarly, the bride or bridegroom, they might say, they probably say, you have become a husband or a wife or whatever, right? So they probably will talk like that. Similarly, if you look at the other extreme, where somebody is sick and ill and in a hospital, doctor says, okay, they are not going to survive. People start crying. Okay, why? Even though they're not dead, certain that it's going to happen. Now the question is, everybody is going to die at some point. So why we are not crying now, right? So this is what Krishna is trying to say here. The body is temporary. Panditas will not cry. Those who have that knowledge of Atma, they will not cry because of their wisdom, because of that jnana, because of that knowledge, they will not cry. Death comes only to the body, not to the Chaitanya, the Atma Vastu. That's okay. So it's not to the Atma Vastu. So now coming to answer Arjuna's question, why they are not to be grieved for, why this this Atma Vastu is eternal. Bhagavan says in the next shloka, he says, Nat Natvevaham Jatunasam Natvam Neme Janadipaha Na Chaivana Bhavishyamaha Sarve Vayamadha Param. But certainly it is not that I did not exist at any time, nor you, nor these kings and rulers of the men that assembled, and surely it is not that we shall cease to exist after all this. Okay? So he says that the Atma Vastu existed before, it exists now, it exists after. So we will come to that details in a second. So now if you look at a little bit word by word, na means never, tu, however, eva, certainly, aham, I, jatu, at any time, always, na means nor, asam, exist, na is nor, tvam is you, na again nor, ime, these, janadipa, kings, na means again never, cha also, eva indeed, na bhavishyamaha shall not exist. Sarve vayam, all of us, atha from now, param after. Look at this. So nato eva, but certainly it is not. Okay, nato eva means, but certainly it is not that jatu at any time aham na asam. That means I did not exist on the. So again, it is a fact that at any time I did not exist. That means what? I always existed, right? I always existed. The idea is when the bodies are born and died in the past, I existed. I existed eternally. Similarly, natvam, nor is it that you did not exist. Okay, but so it is not that you did not exist. That means you also surely existed before. And cha, so also na ime, nor these Janadipa, these ruler of men, did not exist. It is also not that they did not exist. That means they also did exist. And similarly, Naeva is surely not that Vayam, we, survey, all, okay, we all, na bhavishyamaha, shall cease to exist, adaparam, after this, even after destruction of this body. So that means it is not that we are not going to exist after this. So what does that mean? We will exist. We shall exist after this as well. After destruction of this body as well, we shall exist. So the meaning is that even in all three times, past, present, bhuta, bhuta, uh, bhuta, bhavishya. So everything, all the three times, okay, bhuta, vartamana, bhavishya, all three times, we exist. Okay, we are eternal in our nature as Atma. Okay. Trishvapi Kaleshu Nitya Atma Surupena. That's what Shankaracharya says. Okay, so in all the three times, okay, past, present, and future, the nature of Atma is eternal. The plural used here, Vayam Sarve, okay, we all, okay, when we say that the word we is used, okay, is used just to following the diversity of the bodies, and not in the sense that of the multiplicity of the Atma itself. Okay, Atma is only one. Okay, it is only one. The bodies are multiple. Okay, so what it's saying is we all exist when we will all exist in future as well. That means it's referring to this as the diversity of the bodies is mentioned, not Atma. Atma is only one that continues to exist today. It was there previously. It will remain future as well. Again, to show how Atma is eternal, how self is eternal, Bhagavan continues in the next shloka, in the 13th shloka of this chapter, saying, okay, he gives an illustration of that Atma continues. Again, so the Atma Vastu existed in Bhuta in the past, it exists in the present, Vartamana, and in Bhavishya, in future as well. So why those are wisdom, those are of wisdom will not cry. Okay, so the question might come, why those who have the wisdom will not cry? Because the pain, because if you look at the pain, it is same for everybody, right? So any sorrow or grief, it is same for everybody, but why they do not cry? The answer is the Pandita who have the experience of that Atma Vastu, who have that knowledge, they do not cry. Because Atma, they know that Atma is Avinashi. It never get destroyed. It's never cannot be destroyed. It's eternal. They know that. So then now the Arjuna's mind, or there were multiple questions coming, right? Is Atma really exist? Is it separate from body? Is it eternal? What is the proof? Why it is not considered? Why we do not consider body as Atma itself? And then the other question might come, if Atma is considered based on the Vedas, why consider that as the proof? Okay. And then again, he might say that, Arjuna might say, I am crying not because of Atma destruction or anything like that, but I'm crying because of this bandhavya, this relationship I have with this person I'm going to have battle with is going to get destroyed. Okay, so again, relationship, if you look at this, Bhishma, Drona, or whoever it is, you recognize them through their bodies, right? I'm saying he's my great grandfather. Looking at this body, I'm not looking at his Atma and saying that he's my great or he's my guru because Drona looks like this. Okay, Drona speaks like this. Drona is this, right? I identify Drona with that body. That relationship I have is with the body. So the Arjuna's might question saying that I'm not crying and my grief is not because of Atmanasha, Atma's destruction or anything like that, but my grief is because this bandhavya, this relationship I have with this body is going to get destroyed once the person dies, right? So to all this, and also to confirm or explain how the Atma is eternal, Krishna explains in the next shloka, in the 13th shloka. So he says, Dehinosmin netha dehe kaumaram yauvanam chara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra na muhyati. So as the boyhood, youth, decrepitude to an embodied being in this present body, similar is the acquisition of another body. Okay, this again, this being so, an intelligent person does not get deluded. So if we look at a little bit more detail on the word by word, so dehina, the embodied, asmin, in this, yata, yes, dehe, in this, in the body, kaumaram, childhood, yauvanam, youth, jara, old age, tata, similarly, dehantara, another body, praptihi, achieves, dhiraha, the wise, tatra, thereupon, na muhyati, not deluded. The wise are not deluded by that. So, yatha, so if we go into how Shankaracharya explains in his Bhashya on this, so yatha, yes, are, so the manner in which kaumaram, the boyhood or the childhood, yauvanam, the youth, middle age, and jara, the advanced age, the old age or decrepitude, these things, dehina, to an embodied being, the one who possesses the body, deha, okay, the one having the body. So again, deha, dehina is deha, asya asti dehi. The one having deha is dehi. Okay, so dehina, so the one having that, possessing that body, to the atma possessing a body, that's dehina, asmin, in this present dehe, present body. So similar to that, these three states are mutually distinct, right? So on this again, when the first state gets destroyed, the atma does not get destroyed. So when one turns from childhood to youth, middle age, the atma does not get destroyed. Similarly, when one turns from youth to old age or middle age to old age, the atma is not get destroyed or reborn or anything there. So what then? It is seen that the atma, which is certainly remains unchanged, acquires second and third states, right? So it was atma was in looking in the body which was in the childhood, then in the body of a youth or middle age, and then in the old age. So atma remains constant. It is the body that is changing. Tata, similar, indeed, is its, that is the atmas, the unchanging self. Okay, so the atma is the unchanging. Okay, it never changing. Dehantara prapti. So that atma, unchanging one, acquisition goes through acquisition of another body, a body different from the present one. So just like it moved from youth, childhood, middle age to old age, like that, it acquires another body. Okay, that's the meaning. That's what it's trying to say. Tatra, this being so, dhira, that is the intelligent person, does not na muhyati, get deluded. They do not get deluded. So now the now again, you Arjuna, or whoever it is, Arjuna, the listener here, or again Arjuna is used as a medium, as we looked at previously, right? Krishna is used Arjuna as a medium to send this message to everybody. So if you look at that, so the body moves from one place to another. The body dies when it comes to old age or whatever the reason. Okay, you did not cry when the body changed from childhood to youth or middle age or to old age. You did not cry, oh, my body changed, right? We don't cry. So why cry now when the death comes? Because the Atma moves from after this body, it moves to another one. So at that time, Arjuna might say, I did not cry because I had a new body. So when I moved from childhood to youth or youth to middle age or to old age, I still had this body, right? So, but when the death comes, I don't know there is about the new body that's coming. The memory of the previous life is gone, previous body is gone. So one might say that just because you don't remember, you can't say that Atma does not exist. Okay. So for example, if you look at what he did last month on the same date, last month on 16th, what did you do? On morning, what did you have for breakfast? Unless it is something special, you probably won't remember. That doesn't mean that the breakfast one had on that day did not exist. Breakfast did happen on that day, or the lunch, whatever, did happen on that day. Activities, whatever that happened, just because one can't remember doesn't mean that it did not happen. Similarly, Atma Vastu exists and it remains. And it is not there. Atma is not body. The Chaitanya Vastu is behind all this. And Atma is not this Stula Sharira. So it is not in, and this Stula Sharira is not your form. That's what Krishna is trying to say. And you are also not Sukshma Sharira or the Karana Sharira. So there are three types of Shariras that's mentioned: Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira. So Stula Sharira is the one is mentioned as the having Karacharanadi Avayava Yuktam. So that means having arms, legs, and limbs, and all those things. That is considered as Stula Sharira. Again, another definition for Stula Sharira is Stambhavat Vartamanam. So it looks like a pillar. Okay, it stands like a pillar. That's the body. Okay, so that's the Stula Sharira. Then there is Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Sharira is it includes Pancha Jnanendriya, so that is eyes, through which we see, ears, hearing, nose, smell, mouth, through which we taste, and then skin, which touch. Right? The Pancha Jnanendriya Sukshma includes Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriya, Pancha Prana, Manas, Buddhi, and some include Chitta and Ahankara as well in the Sukshma Sharira. So it could be total 17 or 19 things there. So 5 Jnanendriya, so which is eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and skin, and Pancha Karmendriya, that is again mouth for speaking, arms, legs, and the lower part Jananendriya, and the one used for the excretion. So those are the 5 Pancha Karmendriya, and then Pancha Prana. So prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. So those pancha pranas, and then mind, buddhi, conviction. So manas and buddhi, and then chitta and ahankara. So these total made up of sukshma sharira. So Krishna is saying you are not stula sharira, you are not sukshma sharira. So death is actually about leaving the stula sharira. It is not about leaving the sukshma sharira. The atma is still resides in that Sukshma Sharira. And then Karana Sharira is the one that's deep inside Sukshma Sharira. And its form is Ajnana, ignorance. Okay. So So that's why the death is only for this sthula sharira, these limbs and arms and legs and whatever we see physically. That's what uh, the death comes. So that's what uh, Krishna explains. And now, if Arjuna might argue that in the case of a man who knows Atma is eternal, even when a person knows that Atma is eternal, although there is no possibility of delusion concerning destruction of Atma and things like that, still delusion as of the ordinary people caused by the experience of cold, heat, happiness, sorrow, all these things are noticed in him, right? So the delusion arises from being deprived of happiness, sorrow, and sorrow arises from contact with pain and so on, right? So even in this case, this even one who having this atmajnana, these experiences, the hot, cold, or anything that's extremes, or happiness, sorrow, and all those things, that still comes. These experiences still there. Okay, so Arjuna might argue that, and thinking this, Bhagavan says that the next shloka, the 14th shloka, he explains. I lost the shloka here. So in the 14th shloka, Bhagavan explains that. One second. So to so Bhagavan explains that matra sparshasta kaunteya shitoshna sukadakkadaha agama payino anityastam tidikshasva bharata. So he explains that uh, he explains that but the contacts of the senses with the objects are the producers of this cold, heat, happiness, sorrow, all those things. It is the contact with the senses that results in that. They have a beginning and end and are transient. So bear them, you bear them, O Bharata, O descendant of Bharata, he says. So if you look at a little bit later, matra sparsha, contact of the senses with the sense objects. Two means indeed. Kaunteya is Arjuna, the son of Kunti. Shita Ushna is Shita is cold. Ushna is summer or hot. Sukha, dukkha, happiness and distress, happiness and sorrow. Daha, give. Agama, come. Apayina, go. Anitya, non-permanent. Tan, them, titikshasva, tolerate, Bharata is descendant of Bharata. So here Krishna addresses Arjuna as Kaunteya, son of Kunti. Again, so son of Kunti is addressing again as Bharata as well. So showing that Arjuna is fit to receive this Atmajnana because he is well descended. He is on the father's side as well as on mother's side. He is of high birth. That's why he is fit to receive. So Kaunteya was son of Kunti. Matra sparsha, the contacts of the senses with the objects are Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkada, producers of cold, heat, happiness, sorrow. Okay, so the contact of the sense objects with these, the contact of the senses with the objects produces this. Okay, cold, heat, happiness, sorrows, and things like that. So matra here means that those which are measured up, marked off, or measured up like sounds, etc. Those are the things. That is the senses of hearing and so on. So the sparsha is the contact. Okay, the senses with the sound, etc. So, for example, that's the matra sparsha. Say, for example, you hear music. Okay, the contact with that music, that hearing, is matra sparsha. Or you taste something, a sweet or whatever you like, a food. That's tasting is coming into contact with that. The senses coming in contact with those objects. Okay, are matra sparsha. So matra is not related to matru. Okay, so the matru is mother, right? So it's not that. So otherwise it will be completely meaning will be completely wrong. So matra sparsha means you could simply translate that it is mother's touch results in hot, cold, happiness, sorrow, and things like that. So that's not wrong. That's wrong. Here matra sparsha is senses coming in contact with the objects. Okay, so sparsha means those which are contacted, either the objects, the sounds, and things like that, the food or whatever that gets contacted. So that's why matra sparsha, the sense and the objects are the producers of cold, heat, happiness, sorrow, and things like that. Cold sometimes produces pleasure, sometimes pain, right? Similarly, the nature of heat as well. Sometimes produces happiness, sometimes sorrow. So, but on the other hand, happiness and sorrow, they are defined. Okay, so for example, in winter times, heat, you like heat. Okay, but in summer, heat, you don't like it. Okay, so it becomes too much for us. So the same thing, heat, one time we like it, one time we don't. Similarly, cold as well, right? So when in the hot weather, cold breeze comes, you enjoy it. But in the cold winter, if the cold breeze comes, you say it's not good, right? So the cold or heat and things like that, those change depending on circumstances. But when we say happiness and sorrow, that's a definite nature, right? So if I'm happy, that means I'm happy. There is no sorrow in that. There is no unhappiness in it. Similarly, when it is sorrow, it is unhappiness. That's why they are specifically separately mentioned from the cold and heat. Okay, so happiness and sorrow mentioned separately from the cold and heat because they have a definite nature. So now an objection or a question might come. It may be objected that if the objects of the senses or their contacts give pleasure and pain, the samsara, the wheel of samsara, this birth and death will be endless, right? Because those objects and their contacts with the senses are endless. So you always have these contacts, right? So in the birth, whatever the form one takes birth, there is always this contact with these objects, whether they give pleasure or sorrow, or whether they like heat and cold, those things always exist. So that means this samsara, this cycle of birth and death, will never end, if that's the statement Krishna is saying here. So Shankaracharya says that this objection does not apply here, since the organs, the contacts, etc., are agamapayana, have a beginning and end, or by nature subject to origination and destruction. Therefore, they are anitya, they are transient. So these organs or the contacts or the objects, whatever it is, they are anitya, they have a beginning and end. That's why they are transient. Hence, titikshasva, bear them bravely. Hence, bear them bravely. That means here it is laid down the second condition for, so when Krishna says bear them bravely, he also lays down the second condition for this Atma Jnana. Okay, the right to knowledge, which is calm endurance in pleasure and pain. So what is asked to brave them barely? The cold, heat, happiness, sorrow, all those things. Okay, that is do not become happy or sorrow with regard to them. The separate again mentioned of the objects, the vishayas, that again it implies that what it implies is the subjective feeling of harmony and discord are immediate uh, precursors of pleasure and pain. Right. So the external objects first produce subjective changes, such as the sensation of heat or cold or feeling of harmony or discord, and then produce the pleasure and pain. Okay. So whatever the vishayas or the category of the objects that we look, okay, they first produce that change, subjective change in us. Right? And then that results in pleasure or pain, happiness or sorrow. So what Krishna is saying is bear them bravely, all those things. Okay. So now the question could come. Okay. So again, these senses, indriyas, feed the mind. Okay. And it is the mind or the antakarana which enjoys all those things or which suffers happiness or sorrow, depending on what it is. So assume that what Krishna is saying, that assume that those senses are not yours, and it can only be done through practice, through abhyasa, which is what Krishna says later in the Gita, how one can follow that. So it can only be done through abhyasa. Again, understand the happiness, sorrow are not permanent. They only you only become the witness, sakshi, and not attached to it. You do not become the enjoyer or experiencer of that. So an example is if you look at sun gives light to everybody, right? But sun is not actually involved in all those things that's happening wherever the light forms. But sun is there just as a witness of those things, sakshi. And similarly, Atma is not attached to the death. Okay, Atma is not attached to these sukha, dukkha, sorrow, grief, happiness, whatever it is. Okay, then the question might come that you are saying don't become attached to those things, senses, whatever the senses tell you, ignore them. Okay, assume that that's not you because you are Atma. Now, the question is, if someone, let's say, for example, beats you or abuses you, say some harsh words, does it not hurt you? Because that's done to the body. You still feel it, right? So again, what Shastras call it is adhyasa. So it is assuming another view. Okay, for example, if you keep something colorful in front of a crystal, okay, you see that crystal changing the color of the item you kept, right? Even though crystal's original color is pure, clear, because you kept something in front, it looks like the crystal itself changed its color, right? So similarly, Atma Vastu, even though it is pure, because of mind, manas, or the antakarana, it looks like Atma is attached to that. So this mind, again, the manas, they say that there are different characteristics of this manas. Okay, so for example, it says uh, it's sankalpa, kama, vichikshisa, that is samshaya, okay, shraddha, dhriti, adhriti, rihi, dihi, and so on. So it is like shame, shraddha, that is dedication, ashraddha, opposite of the dhriti, fortitude, and adhriti, opposite of that, bravery or unbravery, and then and fear, all these things part of the mind. So the sukha dukkha are part of this mind or the antakarana. Okay, and some commentators, for example, for this shloka, they also included say that this Shita, Ushna, this hot, cold, all these things, etc., are part of the Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, or Adidaivika. They are part of that three things that would give problems to one person, right? So Adhyatmika is like anything that's happening to comes to your sharira, for example, illness and so on. Adibhautika is the material problems, the problems coming to this sharira from others. Okay, for example, a snake bite, or you're walking and a car comes and hits, those kind of things, which is not in is something you have done, but it has happened to you. And Adibhautika is Prakritika. So anything that happened beyond your control, earthquake or flood or fire and those kind of things. Okay. So those things that's Adibhautika. So the dukkha comes from one of these forms. Okay. So whatever the type of problems you look at, can be classified into one of these three things. Again, Sukha is from the five senses. Okay, Dukkha from these three forms. So the manas or the antakarana is the one that experiences. What Krishna is saying is separate yourself from that. So now the question is, what will happen to the one who bears that cold and heat? And Krishna says, listen to that. The person that you are speaking is what he explains in the 15th shloka. Yam hina vedayatyan yantete purusham purushashaba samadukka sukham dhiram som amritatvaya kalpate. So, Arjuna, those certainly those persons, the persons who these do not torment, the wise man to whom sorrow, happiness are same as he is fit for Amritattva, immortality or moksha. So we'll look at this shloka in detail next time.